Hello everybody, David Shuster here. 3 former FBI agents have now filed a class action lawsuit against the Trump administration. The agents say they were fired not for misconduct nor for poor performance, but for doing their jobs. And in the newly filed lawsuit against Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, the agents are pointing to a remarkable piece of evidence, a public statement from Bondi's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. At the CPAC convention in Texas, Blanche boasted about FBI Director Patel firing FBI agents who helped investigate Donald Trump.
Director Patel has cleaned house there too. There isn't a single man or woman with a gun, federal agent, still in that organization that had anything to do with the prosecution of President Trump.
Blanche said it out loud on stage at a major conservative political gathering. The FBI agents were targeted in a coordinated purge because of their roles investigating Donald Trump. In the lawsuit, the agents say they were dismissed without due process, without formal charges, and without the opportunity to defend themselves. According to their complaint, Department of Justice and FBI officials compiled lists of employees deemed disloyal and then carried out dismissals to, quote, drive headlines and curry favor with political appointees. The lawsuit seeks to expand beyond just 3 agents and potentially cover dozens of FBI employees fired since early 2025. The class action lawsuit could also expand to cover employees at the Department of Justice. Again, thanks in part to other comments by Todd Blanche.
There is not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions.
How many have been canned?
Over 200. Over 200 either left before we came in because they knew it was coming or were fired or took early retirement. They are no longer employed by this department.
Blanche's boasts, while serving as key evidence in the lawsuit, raised constitutional claims. The fired agents say the Trump administration violated their Fifth Amendment rights to due process. The Trump White House, the Department of Justice, and the FBI are not commenting on the lawsuit, but by all accounts, the Trump administration engaged in a broad shakeup inside the Department of Justice and inside the FBI, with dozens of employees fired because of perceived bias. And the bias threshold was anybody who had participated in an investigation of Donald Trump, including related to the January 6th Capitol riot. Just by doing their jobs, collecting evidence, and helping to prosecute the January 6 rioters who stormed the Capitol and attacked police, FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors were considered disloyal to Donald Trump and removed from their jobs. As the lawsuit points out, the DOJ and FBI employees take an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. And the first value on the Department of Justice mission statement is independence and impartiality. Experts say the class action lawsuit against the Trump administration is strong.
They were assigned these cases. They did not go after the president. They did not sign up specifically to try to do lawfare against the president. They were assigned these cases. They did their due diligence. They showed up in court. Judges signed off on warrants, and they followed the normal processes that you would follow in a normal running Department of Justice. What we have now is definitely not a normal running Department of Justice, as evidenced by the fact that the Deputy Attorney General is on stage at CPAC in the first place. And so we do have a situation where the president has employed a number of his close allies to go after his enemies, to protect his friends, and to do so blatantly and to brag about it in public. And so it is not normal. It is the new normal that this president has tried to countenance, but it's not what we have long expected from our independent Department of Justice for decades and decades.
And the irony is that countless members of the Trump administration and many conservatives have convinced themselves that it was the Biden administration's Department of Justice that was biased. In the mind of conservatives, Donald Trump never did anything wrong or possibly illegal, and every prosecution against Trump was groundless.
Do we have any hope that we get back to the idea that no matter what your party affiliation, that you will face one system of justice again?
Yes, of course we have hope. Attorney General Pam Bondi, President Trump, myself, we are changing things. Full stop. We are changing things. And folks need to realize, and I think it's important to realize, that what was the first thing that we did to change things?
Well, the first thing the Trump administration did in office was this.
Good evening. We're coming on the air with more breaking news on this historic day. On the evening of his inauguration, President Donald Trump not wasting any time getting down to business. He has just returned to the White House and is signing a series of executive actions in the Oval Office, where he is pardoning some 1,500 January 6 rioters who have been convicted for participating in the attack on the Capitol 4 years ago. The president is speaking now. Let's listen in.
Yes, sir. First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
That's right. The first thing Donald Trump did was give full pardons to nearly everybody charged and convicted for January the 6th. Many of the pardons went to people convicted by a jury for committing acts of violence against police. So when Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel say they are changing things, the change is to turn U.S. law enforcement into a personal protection force for Donald Trump and for his supporters. Under the Trump administration, there is no equal justice under the law. There is just a loyalty test. And those who were not sufficiently loyal to Donald Trump and put the Constitution and the law first, well, they have been removed. The class action lawsuit is a welcome step for all of us who have been outraged by the naked partisanship that Donald Trump has injected into the Department of Justice and FBI. One can only hope the lawsuit expands, includes Department of Justice employees, and brings some measure of relief to everybody who the Trump administration fired merely for doing their jobs. By the way, a top economic survey of U.S. consumer sentiment just registered some of the worst numbers in the survey's history.
That's a survey that's been going for over 60, 70 years. And right now we're at one of the lowest points through that entire post-war history of the United States. So the bigger headline is we are awfully close to being as miserable American consumers as they've been at any point in recorded American history.
With the economic fallout from the war with Iran, it is spreading as restrictions on oil supply have pushed the average price of a gallon of gas past the $4 mark. That happened overnight.
First time we've seen prices over $4 a gallon on average nationally since August of 2022.
Now at levels not seen since the start of the war in Ukraine 4 years ago.
This is a record-breaking spike in the cost of gas. According to Gas Buddy, the national average is now above $4 a gallon for the first time in more than 3 years, marking the biggest monthly increase on record. Diesel is up $1.70 a gallon. That is also the biggest spike ever in 1 month.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Mr. Sparkle, who wrote, "Surprise, surprise, electing a sociopath, malignant narcissist twice who ruins everything he touches has consequences." Indeed. I look forward to reading your comments about Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche bragging publicly and delivering key evidence against the DOJ and the FBI in a class action lawsuit. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.